Hi there, it's the creepy narration voice again. Our first step for making our lemony quinoa is measuring out 1/4 cup of raw pine nuts. As we can see, our friend Justine has done here. You will then proceed to pour the nuts into a pan, and once you've done that, you're going to want to keep them on a dry skillet at medium heat for about 5 minutes. But you want to make sure to consistently stir it around to prevent it from burning, because these will burn pretty easily. And once you have done that, set it aside to cool. And that'll be for our next step, which I'll explain to you in a moment. Our next step is to take the quinoa, which is 1 cup, as we see measured here, put it into our saucepan, take our pre-measured 2 cups of water, 2 cups, pour it into the saucepan, or whatever this is. And you're going to take the salt and add a couple shakes of it, just so the water boils faster and to give it some flavor. Next, you're going to want to put it on medium to high heat and bring it to a boil. So once your quinoa is boiling, you want to take it back down to medium heat. And once it is boiling, you're going to want to let it boil for about 10 minutes. And once it has cooled a little bit, not completely cooled, but cooled slightly, just to the point where it isn't boiling hot, you're going to want to take a fork or whatever utensil you have and fluff it. And by fluff it, I'm assuming it means just make sure that it's the water is evenly distributed so that none of the quinoa rehardens or dries up. Here we see our quinoa boiling. As you can see, it looks really cool. The little beads of quinoa grain are just like popping up all over the place. We'll turn up the heat to show you for a second. Yeah, it just kind of goes crazy. It's really fun to watch. So once it gets to a good boil, you're going to want to let it boil for a couple seconds, not too long. And once it's boiled for a little bit at high temp, which is what you would have wanted to have the heat on at first, you're going to want to move the heat down to medium. And once you do that, you're going to want to let it boil for about 10 minutes. And yeah. Here we see the quinoa is done boiling, and I don't know if you can see it, but there's pretty much no water there. It's pretty much all been absorbed. And as we see here, we see Justina fluffing it up, which is the term used, I guess, which is basically just stirring it up, like I said earlier, to make sure the water is distributed evenly. And yeah. Here's our final, most exciting step. Well, I mean, if you get a thrill out of mixing ingredients, then this should be pretty exciting for you. You're going to want to take your quinoa and you're going to want to put it into a mixing bowl. And once you've done that, you're going to take your pine nuts and you're going to mix them in. So don't put them all in at a time. You're just going to want to put some in and then mix them in slowly. As we see Justine here, I'll help her out. Let's mix them all up. Alright, here we have our prepared mixture of chopped onion and chopped celery, which you will then mix with the rest of the food. So you can see our food starts looking pretty good, or at least comes to life. And once you've done that, you can take your parsley, fresh or not fresh, whatever you have. In this instance, we have non-fresh. And just add a bit of it. You can go ahead and add your black pepper or whatever pepper you have, whatever seasoning you'd like to add, maybe some cumin or whatever your favorite, whatever spices, whatever you might want to put in there. And some salt too. And once you've mixed that all together, you have your dish. So you can go ahead and give it a taste and add more seasoning or whatever you want. And once you've mixed all those ingredients in, go ahead and put in your lemon juice and mix it up. Our first step is to take 1 cup of white sugar. And once you have your cup of sugar measured out, you're going to put your white sugar into a saucepan. And once you've done that, you're going to put it on medium to high heat and stir it constantly as the sugar caramelizes. It turns into a nice syrup. Make sure you're pretty adamant on the whole stirring process, because if you're not, it'll probably burn some of it. As we see here, our sugar has started to caramelize, and it's kind of turning brown in certain places, as you see here in this shot. And once again, I'm just going to stress on the importance of stirring it around. Like, even though I have been stirring pretty well, there's already some stuck to the side of the pan. So you're going to keep on letting your sugar cook until it reaches the state of being caramel, to each his own. I'll show you the finished product of the cara, whatever you want to call it, mel. And here we have it, folks. It's pretty much entirely brown. So we have our finished caramel product here. And once it's done, just set your spoon aside in the sink or something. And you're going to turn the heat off. And you're going to take your caramel or syrupy mix, whatever. I'm going to grab the oven mitt real quick. Take it and pour it into your molding pan very carefully. You don't want to have any sort of disaster, so yeah. Leave it in there and let it cool off. And before I forget to mention, our next step here is to go ahead and preheat your oven to 350 degrees. So yeah, go ahead and just let it preheat, do its thing. Okay, for those of you, once again, who take tremendous pleasure in mixing ingredients together, this is going to be the scene for you. So our next step, while our oven is preheating and our caramel is cooling down, is to take the following ingredients and put them into the blender. And those ingredients are your whole milk, which is going to be 1 cup, as you see right there. You're going to take, so yeah, let's go ahead and put our 1 cup of whole milk. It is now in the blender. Aren't you excited? And then we're going to take our sweetened condensed milk, which comes in 14-ounce cans, which is pretty typical, so that's probably all you're going to find, but in case you have some trouble, 14 ounces is what you want. So 14 ounces down the hatch.